Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're wrestling with a pretty big question actually. It sort of shifts meditation from, the yoga studio, maybe straight into the war room. Is mindfulness just a gentle pursuit, or is it actually like a non-negotiable strategic necessity, especially for people, well, running the world? And you, our listener, you're here because you want the fastest path to deep knowledge, right? You want the insight that just cuts through all the noise. So our mission today is simple. Analyze the hard evidence. We're talking Harvard studies, Mayo Clinic data, plus the habits of global figures. Think Ray Dalio, Jack Dorsey, major world leaders. We want to reveal exactly which roles must meditate to stay at peak function.
Yeah, and I think we need to set the stage properly here.
Mm.
We're really looking at meditation almost like critical infrastructure,
Hmm.
not just another wellness trend. When you look at these really high-stakes roles, political, military, corporate, attract, the decisions are constant. They're 2047, and they affect millions. So in that kind of environment, clarity, resilience, rational judgment, these aren't luxuries. They're fundamental operational
Yeah.
requirements. We're viewing this strictly as a tool for, well, extreme performance and essential societal contribution.
Okay, let's unpack that straight away. The sources we looked at, they provided this kind of quick reference breakdown. Who falls into the must meditate category? And it's surprisingly direct. The list kicks off with leaders in general, right? And
Mhm.
businessmen, entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
These are the people who apparently need that enhanced vision, creativity, better risk management, basically, to avoid the inevitable burnout.
Exactly.
We're talking about the habits of people like Satya Nadella, Steve Jobs, Oprah Winfrey. It seems to be how they maintain their strategic edge.
And that strategic edge, that's precisely why it extends straight into, the top levels of global governance. Politicians, presidents, prime ministers are explicitly called out. For them, meditation is seen as critical for making ethical decisions, for having genuine public empathy, and just handling the sheer stress when the stakes are literally life and death.
Okay, but here's a question. How does a leader facing like constant existential crisis think
Mhm.
about the examples mentioned? Barack Obama, Volodymyr Zelensky, Narendra Modi, Justin Trudeau. How do they find the time, even for 15 minutes, when the world feels like it's burning? Why is this the thing that's non-negotiable?
It boils down to high-stress overload. It's necessary because of that. When you're making decisions 24/7, your body is just flooded with cortisol, right? The stress hormone.
Mhm.
And the research here is really compelling. Regular meditation can cut cortisol by a staggering 30 to 50%. This isn't just theory. It's like a biological intervention to make sure rational thought actually wins out.
That leads perfectly into the third category mentioned, which honestly for me is maybe the most compelling proof of necessity, the Army chief and defense personnel. This is explicitly about performance under fire.
Precisely. It's about sharpening focus right there in combat and, crucially, PTSD prevention. The sources detail real-world examples citing U.S. Marines using mindfulness training, leaders like General Mark Milley. When we talk about rational decision-making, what we really mean is maximizing activity in the prefrontal cortex. That's the brain's planning and logic center.
Right.
And it often gets hijacked, by the primitive amygdala, the fight-flight response during intense stress.
So you're saying meditation literally reroutes brain activity away from panic and towards calm, rational choices.
Exactly that. It builds the neural muscle, you could say. It ensures that enhanced empathy or emotional intelligence is actually available for things like negotiation diplomacy, guaranteeing the leader is reacting strategically, not just emotionally. Plus, there's the added benefit that those who practice tend to show improved health and longevity, which, extends their leadership tenure right when their experience is most valuable.
Okay, so we know who must do it for performance reasons, but what does the balance sheet say? Let's talk ROI, the quantifiable returns. Because for these high-stakes professionals, if something doesn't have a clear return on investment, it's just distraction, isn't it?
And this is where the strategic value really shines,
Hmm.
especially for anyone who values efficiency.
Yeah.
We've talked about rewiring the brain, right,
Mm.
towards that rational prefrontal cortex. Well, the data proves this actually pays off financially. The proven ROI for businesses is pretty striking. Companies save an estimated $13,000 per employee per year in healthcare costs. And that's mainly due to improved well-being and stress management.
Hold on, $13,000 per employee. Is that a net saving? Like, after the cost of putting these programs in place?
That figure represents the economic burden that's lifted by reducing chronic stress-related illnesses.
Mm.
Things like anxiety, depression, even heart disease. And the military results are just as compelling. Programs are showing up to 20% better performance metrics among personnel who get mindfulness training.
Wow, 20%.
Yeah. So the message is clear. Meditation isn't some time drain that subtracts from productivity. It's an immediate investment, and it yields measurable, proven returns in performance, health, and, well, economic savings.
That makes the case pretty undeniable for like 99% of people. But we have to talk about the critical exceptions. The sources are very clear on this. While meditation is overwhelmingly safe, there's this small fraction, the critical 1%, who really should avoid unsupervised practice entirely. We need to get into the nuance here for safety.
Absolutely. This raises a really important point about needing tailored guidance sometimes. The main concerns really center on individuals with severe psychiatric disorders. Specifically, the sources mention schizophrenia or bipolar mania. For these individuals, you see, unsupervised, intense self-reflection, it can carry a risk. It might trigger dissociation or even acute psychosis.
So it's not banned outright for them.
No, not banned, but immediate consultation with a psychiatrist is absolutely necessary first. That's the key takeaway. We also need to talk about acute trauma or untreated PTSD. Healing is obviously necessary, but intense, unguided focus on internal states, well, it might resurface painful memories too intensely too quickly.
Right. So what's the alternative there?
The suggested route is a combination. Professional therapy plus highly structured guided meditation. That combination seems key. Similarly, deep drug or alcohol addiction requires caution. An unstable mind can sometimes amplify cravings. So rehab programs that integrate mindfulness components, those are the recommended path. Guided, integrated support.
And what about the youngest group mentioned? Children under 5.
Yeah, for them it's simpler. The developing brain just isn't really suited for formal, silent sitting meditation. The alternative is much more about fun, age-appropriate play. Simple breathing games. Make it physical and light.
Okay. And just to circle back quickly to defense personnel dealing with trauma,
Yeah.
it's important, right? Despite that general caution we just discussed,
Yes.
the sources do specify that certain evidence-based protocols like mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, MBCT for veterans, they show really impressive results, often up to 80% improvement when properly supervised.
Exactly. That's the crucial part, when properly supervised. So the issue isn't the tool itself, it's how it's applied. It's about matching the practice to the person's psychological state.
Right.
And honestly, if the tool is that powerful in a supervised clinical setting, it just confirms its strategic necessity, doesn't it?
Yeah, good point. Okay, let's shift focus a bit now. We've established this massive ROI for the individual leader, the individual performer. But what happens when that kind of resilience is applied more broadly, across a whole nation? Does collective national wellness actually affect the economy?
Well, it's an interesting question. You won't find meditation listed as a line item in a quarterly GDP report, obviously.
Ah.
But it fundamentally strengthens the human capital, the people, upon which a strong economy is built. Healthier, happier citizens are simply the foundation of a more productive society. End of the day.
So how does the source material connect that better focus, that improved well-being, to actual national prosperity? What are the mechanisms?
It outlines 4 main indirect drivers. First, improved mental health. Pretty straightforward. Reducing chronic anxiety and stress leads directly to fewer sick days, improved quality of life overall, and that measurably boosts productivity across all sectors.
Okay, that makes sense. And the second driver focuses more on the workplace, right? Increased workplace productivity.
Yes. Companies like Google and Apple who offer these kinds of programs, they're not just doing it out of the goodness of their hearts. They recognize that mindfulness improves focus, decision-making, even teamwork.
And that improved efficiency, that innovation boost, that feeds directly into GDP growth.
Precisely. Then the third driver is quite compelling. Reduced healthcare costs. Think about it. If meditation helps manage chronic stress, which we know causes incredibly costly conditions like heart disease, that dramatically lowers both public and private healthcare spending.
And that substantial saving, it can then be redirected, right, towards more strategic investments, maybe infrastructure, innovation.
Exactly. It frees up resources. And finally, number 4 is enhanced education. When schools implement mindfulness programs, they report better student attention, fewer behavioral issues, and crucially, improved educational outcomes.
Which means a more skilled workforce in the long run, better human capital, as you said.
Right. And this is why some nations, like Bhutan, for example, they prioritize a different kind of metric. They use gross national happiness, where well-being is actually viewed as central to national success, not just an afterthought.
Interesting perspective. Okay, so given that every single high-stakes role we've mentioned is incredibly time-constrained, the next question is, what's the fast track? We need strategic speed here. What practices actually bring that feeling of joy or clarity quickly, minimizing the time investment but maximizing the impact.
Good question.
The sources specifically highlight heartfulness meditation as potentially ideal for these high-pressure roles. It's time-efficient, apparently just 15 to 20 minutes. It's heart-focused, and it has a huge global community, over 2 million practitioners.
Yeah, the reason heartfulness is often cited as efficient is its direct focus. It targets the heart space, the sort of emotional center, rather than getting tangled up in the busy analytical mind. This approach aims to bypass that constant internal chatter, allowing practitioners to release deep emotional blockages and invite feelings of peace and joy, often much faster than just observing
Oh,
thoughts.
and they have that unique process too, right? The cleaning.
Yes, that's fascinating. The cleaning, or rejuvenation technique. It's a specific nightly practice designed to mentally cleanse the accumulated stress and impressions from the day. The idea is to promote emotional lightness and mental clarity almost immediately. Furthermore, they use something called transmission or pranahuti. You could maybe think of it as a kind of assisted energetic grounding or attunement. It's believed to accelerate inner transformation, often resulting in quite immediate, sometimes profound sensations of calm or even bliss for the practitioner.
Wow, that does sound like the ultimate efficiency hack for your inner life, doesn't it? But for those who might want to explore alternatives, other ways to get that rapid uplift, what else was on the list in the sources?
Sure, there's several other rapid impact techniques mentioned. They work on slightly different physiological levers. One is loving kindness meditation, or metta. This one rapidly generates warm, joyful feelings by intentionally directing well wishes towards others. It's a very immediate shift in perspective.
Okay. And breathing techniques. I assume they're in there.
Oh, absolutely. Sudarshan Kriya is mentioned. It's a specific rhythmic breathing practice known to rapidly induce feelings of euphoria and reduce stress, likely by shifting brain chemistry quite quickly. Then you have things like kirtan, or chanting, singing sacred sounds, basically. This can instantly activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system, helping achieve that deep emotional uplift,
Hmm.
potentially faster than silent observation for some people.
Mm.
The list also includes focused gratitude meditation, which is pretty self-explanatory, and the physical body scan combined with breath awareness. Both of those can quickly release physical tension, which is often tied directly to emotional stress.
Okay, so pulling this all together, synthesizing this deep dive for leaders, politicians, defense personnel, really, anyone in these incredibly high-stakes roles, meditation isn't just an option, is it? It's looking more like a required strategic tool, a tool for peak performance, for longevity, and for making the most rational, empathetic decisions possible, even under crushing global pressure.
Exactly. And furthermore, its widespread adoption seems to lay the foundation for a healthier, more productive, and ultimately a more naturally prosperous society.
So if we connect this back to the bigger picture,
Mhm.
the insight seems pretty simple, really. Peace begins in the heart. Leaders who actually dedicate, say, 15 minutes a day to this kind of practice. Well, the evidence suggests they lead better, they live longer, and they leave a legacy potentially rooted in clarity and peace.
And maybe the final thought for you, the listener, to mull over is this. If meditation can genuinely transform leadership under the absolute highest levels of global pressure, just imagine the change it could bring to your own daily strategic focus, your own clarity.